So, Immortal Empires is coming, and with it a whole host of new units from Warhammer 3 will be entering the Mortal Empires battleground for the first time. In light of this, I wanted to go over some of my favourite and least favourite designs of said new units, and to do this I got my pal Hendrik on a call and decided to present this list to him. I do want to clarify that these are the units that I think have the coolest designs for their models, and is in no way a ranking of the best and worst units. It's all about the aesthetics. So sit back, relax, and enjoy as I present to you the top 5 and bottom 5 coolest units added by Warhammer 3. So, number 5.
Here we go.
Kicking off the list. It's everyone's favourite little cheerleaders. The Nogls.
Yeah, okay.
No, how can you not love them? I just think they just did a really good job of these guys. I think they look exactly like you'd expect. You know, they're kind of like little baby great and clean ones. I think what really sells them to me though is their animations.
Great.
I just love the way they they just do their little towers. They like they just they just
where
form
they
little
turn into a
models.
mech or whatever.
Yeah, that one shows
Running.
them some point. It's so good. And then not only that, they're in combat. They have some great animations as well. They like to just sort of, like, when they're charging, they turn into a ball. They have an animation at some point where they kind of just surround the enemy model and just beat it to death. It's
Fun
just
little guys.
they're just fun little guys. There's nothing not to like about them. There's not really too much to say. I just think personally they're one of my favorite.
That's very fair. Okay, I don't disagree with you on this one.
Yeah, I mean, they're my 5th favorite. Coming in at the number 4 slot is the Bloodshrine of Khorne.
What?
There are a lot of layers to this one, right?
Oh shit.
It's just a huge demonic fucking motorbike that spits out fire with a crazy demon on the top screaming incoherently about murdering and blood for the blood god and all that, and that is just the most cornate heavy metal thing I can think of. I
guess I don't really use this unit very often, but like.
Oh no, I don't think it's even
well.
that good. I just really like its design, and obviously that's what this video is all about. It was really when I was going through the rosters and just having a look, I thought this thing looks cool. And
Even looking at it now, I'm a big fan.
And then I remembered one of the best things about it, its animations, its attack animations. There is nothing to me that I think is more Khorne than just plowing through your enemies on a big demon motorbike while whipping fat donuts.
Oh yeah, the whips.
Spitting fire. There's an animation where they just sort of spin around, spitting out flames. All I can hear is just like Avenged Sevenfold or something like that playing in the background. Metallica maybe. Like it's just incredible. And
Just
it's going to be
styling on them.
even better when you've got Blood for the Blood God, and it's just murdering fools. Hopefully that's out by the time this video's out.
Ideally.
But yeah, there's just something about them.
They are just cool as that. Like they just. I remember when they first announced these, and it was just like what?
Right?
Like you just expect a generic chariot unit, and then they just come in and 360 on them.
I think with these guys, I remember when I first started, and I think actually the first campaign I played of this game, it's just normal stuff. I was playing with a friend, he charged it in, and all we saw, he heard him saying, "Why the fuck is there a motorbike doing donuts in the enemies?" I just zoomed in and I was like, okay, this is already just a great unit. It's just so cool. And for that, the animations, just the overall visual design, that's put them in the 4th spot for me.
That's well deserved.
I'm a big fan.
It's like the anti-Thorgrim. He's got his book there, but
he's not screaming about. Well, there's grudges, I guess, but all of them. They have a grudge with everyone. Alright,
very cool.
3rd place. This is my 3rd favourite unit. I think they're pretty great. However, it might be a little controversial.
No.
And if you can't already tell, it's the Streltsy. I saw a lot of shit talking about these guys when their models were announced. They say they don't look like the lore book. To counter that, I think that's a good thing. There are a lot of units that I think if they look, I really rate them highly if they look like how you expect them to look in the lore. But the Streltsy are not one of them. I think what they've done with this is great. I really like the axe gun. Another controversial opinion. A lot of people think that it shouldn't have been an axe gun. It should have been a bardiche, or a gun and a bardiche, or maybe it should have been the axe should have been on the the barrel end of the gun. But I really like this design.
I don't think I'd ever seen the word bardiche
I didn't know what the hell a Bardiche was, and I'm glad.
Until arguments started about the stealthy design, when there was just Bardiche in every paragraph.
Yeah, and explanations as to why it's actually probably the greatest weapon in human history. But yeah, I really like the axe gun. I think it fits in with the whole lore, with the argument of they just wanted to get one more shot off, so they'd end up clubbing them with the end of their guns. They thought, why not put an axe head on it? I think it really works for the whole Kislev hybrid thing. They just look like a more advanced version of like a true hybrid unit. Another complaint I saw from them, which I disagree with, was their armor. Apparently it looks like high fantasy. To which I have two comments. First of all, this is Warhammer. It is high fantasy. Second of all, no they don't. Like, they look like normal ass dudes that just have like furs and metal plate over the top. I don't know. There's a lot to love about them. I think
it's pretty grounded.
They're pretty grounded. They look like evolved Streltsy. If you want to take the Streltsy from the Iron, but they're Streltsy 1.0. This is the evolved version. They've got plate armor, but not loads of it. But they've got enough armor to protect themselves from demon attacks. They've got they've got a better gun. They've got an axe. They can fire off one more shot. You see them in combat, and they like to pop shots off even while the front line is engaged. They haven't got their Bardiches planted in the ground ready as a mount. I think even when attacking,
they are great.
They are. And they're just like a great unit.
Kind of more. I feel like the word believable isn't really the right thing to use in Warhammer, but it's somewhat more believable that they could actually stand up to Norskins, Chaos Marauders, Demons, whatever, when they look like this, rather than a guy in a red coat.
Exactly. It looks like if anyone's going to take on a Chaos Warrior of Khorne or a Bloodletter, it's probably this guy, right? They've got metal plate. I don't know. There's a lot to love about them. I think they're very.
And they Slav squat.
And they Slav squat. It's the best idle animation in the entire game.
How could you hate it?
It's iconic. It's really good. I don't think they're the coolest unit, but I am a big fan of their design, and that's why I've put them in the third place. All right, so second place. For my second favourite unit in terms of unit design and how cool it is, I don't think anyone's really going to want to argue with me on this one. It is the Terracotta Sentinel from Cathay. I remember when they first announced these. In fact, the Zeach launch, the Zeach versus Cathay trailer. That to me, I saw them in it and I thought that's a cool unit, and it lives up to it. It's got that that rat aesthetic of like the Terracotta Warriors, just made bigger and more, Warhammer-esque, just bigger and better. I really like just the designs. It's got like the joints. It does look like it's made of magical stone.
It's just such a good design.
It really is. I don't know what else to say about it. It looks like it's like glowing with power, but it doesn't look like too out there, too over the top. It just looks like
that's so cool.
And
the way that they just like. The way they just don't make any sound or whatever.
No, yeah, exactly. There's no shouting, but they just do their thing. And then in combat, when you get them into blobs, whether they're fighting, single entities, whether they're fighting mobs of infantry, they just look absolutely incredible. Another unit that I think when you bring in the Blood God are going to be great. They have their little spinning animations. They've got one where they spin their weird double-ended glaive around. Sure, it's got a name. And it just, the helicopter blade of doom.
Yeah, the double Bardiche, I believe.
the old dual Bardiche. I love it. They spin that around and just tear through everything in front of them, and I just think they're great. They've got great animations, great moveset. They just look super cool. They look tanky. They look like they'd hit like a truck, and they do. Not that matters for this rating.
Yeah, I can't argue with you on this one.
But there's very little to argue about.
They're very, very cool. And and Cathay needs like that. Obviously, they have the actual Dragon Lords, but outside of that, they needed something like big. Yeah, and I think these guys are great.
All right, and before we get to my number one pick, I'm going to go through some honourable mentions, some units that I think were good, but they had their reasons that I excluded them.
Didn't quite make it.
Didn't quite make the cut. You can consider these guys sort of 6th, 7th, and 8th, although I won't decide where because that's just a whole other issue.
Well, that would become a top 7 list at that point.
Exactly.
It's just not. We're not in the business of top 7 lists.
So the first of my honourable mentions, I'm just going to go through these quite quickly, are the Jade Warriors of Cathay. Another Cathay unit. I'm a sucker for rank and file infantry that just looks cool. They don't look over the top. They don't look like proper badasses or anything like that, but they have a very cool armor design. It's very sort of Asian, Chinese in style, but also quite unique. I mean, you know, in this instance I've got halberds, but really just all of them, the ones with crossbows, the ones with the swords, they all look great. I am a huge fan of them.
Yeah.
And then
these guys are really cool.
It's just there's not much to say. Their armor is good. They look like strong, but like, you know, rank and file. Like I said, they don't look like they're heroes. They don't look like they're, you know, super soldiers. They just look like really good normal soldiers.
Whatever it is with that, I don't know how you just add one feature and it's so good, but just putting that collar on them, that like
it's the collar,
lamella or whatever,
yeah.
like it just adds such a cool like silhouette.
It just makes them look great, yeah. Alright, the second honourable mention is the Keeper of Secrets from Slaanesh.
Oh.
The only reason this guy didn't get included is because I didn't want to spam the list full of, you know, single entities like the Terracotta Sentinel. And, you know, otherwise it would have just been, the top 5 would have been, you know, the 4 demon ones and the Terracotta Sentinel probably. So I thought, you know, I don't want to put this one in, but this guy, it was a toss-up between this guy and the Terracotta Sentinel in the end. I just love the way they look. They look so Slaanesh-y. They look like they'd absolutely fuck you up and that you'd enjoy it.
Like in many ways.
Yeah, it looks like, you know, they're the kind of person that would spit on you and you say sorry. You know what I mean? They just look like they dominate you. And then,
I love the whole androgynous thing as well.
Yeah,
they really go all
so
out on
good.
it.
But even in battle, they just sort of stride up to you. They model walk up to you, as it, you know, like, and you, it's almost like you'd let them. And then when they're fighting, their animations are also just very cool. They like to spin around. They like to jab. They like to slam their feet down. They're a great unit. But like I say, they just got beaten out by Terracotta Sentinel. And the final honourable mention before we get to the top, Chaos Knights of Zeach. These guys are interesting. I think the reason they didn't quite make it to the top is because this is about the coolest units being introduced to Immortal Empires. But when Immortal Empires drops, so will the Chaos update. And with that, every monogod faction will get their own Chaos Knights.
Yeah.
So they haven't really got that much unique or interesting going for them. But yeah, they're cool. I really like their design, but they're lacking that oomph to sort of separate them from what will be every other faction's Chaos Knights.
Yeah, I mean, especially like every faction's gonna have Chaos Knights.
Exactly. So like, you know, I really like their armor design, and it's only going to get cooler with the new design of the Chaos Warriors of Zeach and the Chosen of Zeach. And that segues me quite nicely onto my top pick, which are the Doom Knights of Zeach, because they do have something very unique about them. I think the fact, like, you know, obviously their model is pretty much the same, which, like I said before, I really like. I like the heavy armor. I like the blue sort of pearlescent tinge to it. I think it looks very good. But the Doom Knights just have that extra little bit because they're on these discs of Zeach. They look, you know, it's a very Zeachian spin.
It's very iconic.
Chaos Knights. Exactly. It sets them apart, and that's why I think they're just my favorite. I mean, are they that good in combat? Are they that great? I don't know, but that's not what this is about. This is about how cool they look. They look like, you know, they fly in on the sky on their little discs. They descend upon the ranks. They're just great. Overall, a very good unit. I think the model, the design team just nailed it on this one.
They fly now?
Yeah, they fly now, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, look, you take all the positives of having a Bardiche, and you put it on a flying disc.
Throw it on a disc of Zeach and give it to the hands of a Chaos Warrior with a magical barrier, and bam.
How can it go wrong?
They're just a very cool looking unit. There's not much to say about them. They're just, you know, the heavy armor, the capes, the color, the halberds, their shields, and obviously the little discs with the eyes. They're so good. It's now time for a few units where I think they perhaps missed the mark a little bit. Some units where I think pretty much every model introduced by Warhammer 3 is good. I don't think any of them are, like, you know, complete and utter trash models.
Oh, we've got a shill over here.
It's a classic CS shill. No, I think they really did do quite well with a few, but there are some where they just don't appeal to me. They just don't have that like, you know, something like the Terracotta Sentinel and the Doom Knights have. Sure. And there are a couple design choices where I think they're questionable. You know, like in terms of actual quality, they're high, but like whether the actual design was a good one, well, that remains to be seen.
Okay, so, I'm interested to see these.
I'm going to start off the top 5 with the Sargard from Kislev. And this may seem, it may seem like an odd pick. Why them? They're the elite infantry. As I've said before, I'm a sucker for heavily armored elite infantry. And my reasoning for this is actually that they are just armored Kossars. They are armored Kossars who have traded their pistol and their axe for a cape and a sword. I don't even mean that in like a sarcastic way. They are literally the same models.
Is that actually the same?
I didn't realise this until I was going through them and having a comparison. They are legitimately the same model.
Oh.
They just have a cape and I think a little tooth necklace.
Well, the cape had managed to trick me, to be honest, because I didn't realise.
You don't realise, right? It's when I was looking at every single model in this game very closely that I realised that they are actually literally the same model. And to me, that's quite underwhelming, quite lazy. These guys are supposed to be, the elite guard of the Queen. It's the Queen, isn't it? Or the Tsar.
Yeah.
They're supposed to be the absolute best of the best of Kislev's soldiers. And they're just armoured Kossars. It'd be like if the High Elf Phoenix Guard were just spearmen. That had spearmen that was like traded their shield for a halberd. I don't think that's good. That's not good enough.
I see your point. Yeah, I also think they're just one of the least hype elite infantry in the game.
They're kind of just boring, right, in terms of their design.
Yeah, I wonder actually if that'll be like fleshed out in DLC at some point.
Perhaps
they'll give them like a tier above kind of thing. But
and don't get it twisted. I like the armored Kossar design, but the fact to reuse that with the Sargard, that to me, that's not good enough, and that's why I put them quite low there.
Yeah, you hold them to a higher standard.
Exactly. They're supposed to be, aren't they? They're supposed to be the elites, and they don't look it at all. All right. So for the number 4th spot on this list, we have the Screamers of Zeach. I just think they're goofy. You're laughing
Look
already.
At those stupid ass faces.
I get it. They look like the law and whatever, and that's fine. They look like Screamers probably should look, but to me, they just don't look very threatening. They don't look particularly. They just look goofy. They're just dumbass flying stingrays. And then not only that, in combat, they don't really scream that much, and it's in their name. It's just. There's nothing like
definitely
wrong
oversight
with the model in terms of it's like it's not like they've missed something. They've reused an asset. It's really low quality. Blah blah blah. It's just to me they're just not particularly interesting. They just don't really appeal to me. They don't look cool. They don't look like big scary demons. They look like goofy fucking flying stingrays. And I'm just not a fan of them.
Are you telling me though? All right, if you're out for a walk in the park and one of these comes out. You're not a little bit frightened.
Maybe I'd be a little bit frightened, but like I think that'd be true of pretty much every unit in every roster. So
just start laughing at them.
So that's why.
No, I think that's fair, especially when you have the Doom Knights to compare them to.
Exactly.
As Zeach's other flying.
Within the same roster, you have the Doom Knights that are just far superior in terms of looks. They just look way cooler. I just don't like the Screamers. I just don't think they look that good.
They're not quite as lovably goofy as the Nurglings as well.
No, exactly. The Nurglings they're sort of meant to be goofy. They're just little guys. They're just chill little guys having a bit of fun. But with them, they're just I don't know, something about them. Not a huge fan. All right, the number 3 spot. Another questionable design decision, in my opinion. Once again, from Kislev, it is the Little Grom. And not just the Little Grom, the same can be said really of any of the sledge units. And my biggest gripe with them is the ice. Why are they pulled about on a bed of ice? It makes no sense to me. It looks okay. It's like, oh, Kislev, they're the cold ones, but I feel like it kind of erases a lot of their thing by just going, oh look, we'll just put it on ice. Like what? Same can be said of the light war sled. It's it's the same. It's just it's not a sled. It's just a box on ice.
It's a box.
it's a box on ice.
Yeah, I mean, I remember that being a complaint when they first revealed them as well. People were like, not just that they look goofy, but like it makes them a much less grounded faction in general.
Yeah, to just have weird enchanted eyes pulling things.
Magic. Like,
yeah, like why would you use magic to just put on, like, why not just put it on a sled or on wheels? Like, it's just
Yeah.
I don't know. It feels odd to me. Another minor gripe I have with the little Grom is that it kind of looks like a mortar, but functions like a cannon, which is yeah. I'm not a huge fan of that design. I think it would look far cooler if it was on sleds, and I think there is a mod actually that puts them all on sleds, and I think it's one of the most popular ones in the workshop. So I think that kind of shows you, maybe perhaps that was they missed they missed the mark a little bit on there. They dropped the ball perhaps.
I think it's weird as well that like that goes around and leaves the kind of ice trail.
Yeah.
So once we get like Immortal Empires and you're taking over the whole world as Kislev, you can drag like an ice trail through
Through Khemri.
Through Khemri or whatever, but the rest of the army doesn't have that effect. I think if everything had it, and you had this whole icy glow going on and everyone had like a frost trail, it would be like their aesthetic. But if you're trying to make like Kossars and stuff grounded, it feels weird to have that.
It's very strange and almost pointless. It's not a magical unit. If it was if they did it on the sled of they said the Frost Maidens, the Ice Witches, if they could have sleds as a mount and they did that, fair enough. You know what I mean? But especially consider it like this: you've got an army that has no spellcaster in there. Who's maintaining that ice? Who's doing that? Where's that coming from? Is it even practical? It's not even smooth. Like it feels like it's just. I don't know. There's a lot about it that I just don't think is very good at all.
That's very fair. Just give them wheels. I think that's fine.
Just give them wheels or sleds.
Regular old
sleds.
wheels.
Give them sleds.
Yeah. Maybe they thought sleds would be weird because if you go to other maps and stuff,
yeah,
and
I guess
it's not like ice runners, then it's
yeah. If you're just like on rocky outcroppings, a sled probably isn't that good for you. So the number 2 spot. This is the bottom 5 unit, so I guess really it's not quite the number 2, but in my opinion,
prestigious.
the second least cool looking unit in the game.
Here we go.
The Iron Guts for the ogres.
Oh.
Which it's nothing too major about these guys. I really have one big gripe with them, and it's to do with the fact that their armor rating is 90. For context, the Depth Guard, the highly elite, clad in armor from the Vampire Coast back in Warhammer 2, which obviously will be present in, in Immortal Empires. They also have an armor rating of 90. But they are, like you say, clad head to toe in, scaled plate armor. They look incredible. They look like absolute tanks. And they've got 90. And then you compare that to the Iron Guts.
They'd be on the list, probably.
Which is just some
if
fat ogre.
the list of coolest units from all games.
Oh, yeah, they would be on the list. They would be number 1. I fucking love the Depth Guard. But Iron Guts, I mean, I get it, they're called Iron Guts, and what do they have on their gut? Iron. But, that's it. They have a helmet on as well, I guess. And some of them have, a shoulder pad, but really that's it. And then apart from that, I mean, that is another thing. I think they're quite bland. They're essentially just ogre bulls that have a great sword and a helmet. Really. I don't think they're particularly exciting as a design for what is also supposed to be quite elite ogre infantry. I know you wouldn't expect too much from ogre infantry, but I don't think it would have killed them to give them a chest plate. Or something along those lines.
I think the sight of a fully armored ogre would also be incredible as well.
It'd be terrifying, right? That's...
So it's almost like the missed opportunity as well.
Yeah, of just a huge, like something out of World of Warcraft, and you got the armored pandas. It'd be like that, right? But instead of a panda, it's a fucking 15-foot tall mountain of flesh covered in armor. It'd be great. But instead, you've got the Iron Guts, just generic slobs with a plate on.
You're laying into these fat guys. So.
I am. They are my second least favorite unit, and bear in mind.
Yeah, I suppose that tracks. Yeah, I think Warhammer in general has a problem with that, or Total War with armor being very variable.
Oh yeah, I mean look at Empire Greatswords. They've got I think they've got 95 armor actually. So apparently they've got more armor on the Depth Guard, even though they're wearing cloth, but the same sort of thing. It is ridiculous. I know it's about
I agree.
Stuff, but...
Again, for the kind of highest tier infantry that they have, they look very underwhelming.
Yeah, for what is supposed to be their sort of elite. I mean, I know man-eaters are technically they go up to a higher tier, but with those tiers, you're just kind of paying for the pistol, the great weapon.
Yeah.
These guys, they're supposed to be like Greasus's guys, and they're just, I don't know, they're just quite underwhelming. I think it's quite a common theme with these bottom 5 is that they just don't really do what I want them to do.
They don't slap.
They don't.
what
They
they
do not slap. They don't live up to what you'd expect. Before we get to my first pick, or bottom pick, I guess you should say, from what I think is the worst unit design in the game, got some dishonorable mentions. Some mentions.
Ooh,
Yeah, I'm
nice.
gonna hit him with that. I'm gonna go through them and explain why maybe perhaps they didn't quite make the cut. Maybe they had one redeeming quality, which put them above.
Okay.
So, just gonna start this off with the Rotflies of Nogl.
Mm.
I just don't like them. simple as, mate. Don't like them. They're just. It's kind of the only reason I didn't put these guys in the bottom 5 is because I guess with Nogl you kind of want your units to look a little bit shitty, but they're just kind of like they're big bugs. Like they don't really have much else to say about them. They're not very exciting for big pestilent flies of Nogl. They're just kind of big wasps, I guess. Like,
yeah.
I'm not a huge fan. Second dishonorable mention: Ogre Man-Eaters. Saved, and the only reason for this, right? I think they look cool, but there's not enough variety. Why are they all pirates?
Mm.
I mean, they've either got a bandana and an eye patch, or a tricorn hat. That is it. That is the variety. The biggest redeeming factor from them is that some of them have a human shield as their gut plate, which I really like.
Oh, that's good detail.
For something called a man-eater. But apart from that, I would have really liked to see a bit more variety from what are supposed to be the most varied of all the ogres, because no two man-eaters really look the same.
Give me the ninja ogre, you coward.
Give it.
That's my message.
That's what I want.
I don't know if you can pop that model up on the screen, but that's what I want.
I'll throw the ninja ogres up. Fuck it, there they are. There are the ninja ogres. Give me those. I want.
Give me them.
That's
now.
what I expect to see. I expect to see more variety from man-eaters, and that's the main reason they didn't make it. But like I say, I think they do look okay. The models that we do get are alright. It's just the lack of variety.
We'll probably get a man-eater DLC at some point
God,
though, where it will get expanded. But
God,
for now, definitely, I think that's fair.
And the final dishonorable mention are the Marauders of Slaanesh, but specifically the Hellscourgers. Because I really
these gimps.
well, actually, they probably take that as a compliment. I really like Marauders of Slaanesh as a design. I think their armor looks pretty cool. But these guys are the only ones that don't have a weird / cool Slaaneshi mutation. So that's why I was gonna put them in the bottom 5. Because they're just kind of normal Marauders, but they have a whip, right? That's not particularly exciting. But then the only thing that really saved them is I think that Slaanesh probably improved very greatly of them having a whip. I think it's probably okay. It does fit the theme a little bit, but I would have liked it if, say, perhaps their arms had mutated into a kind of whip, or just the others have these cool spiny, spiky mutations, and these guys just have just a whip. There's nothing really special.
Yeah,
or too
considering they're the most expensive Marauder as well.
Yeah, they're the highest tier.
The least kind of Slaaneshi in terms of mutation.
Yeah, they're just guys, really. Anyone could be. I could be this guy if I wanted to.
For sure. I think you
shouldn't.
should. I think you should live that dream.
Should I?
If that's what you want to do.
Alright. So we're going to move swiftly on to what I believe is the worst unit design. And it's quite a controversial one. Probably.
I'm ready.
Sky Lanterns.
No!
Yeah, okay. Hear me out.
Oh my god.
I think they're just stupid. Okay? Not because of the literal model, but because of Cathay and who they fight. Okay? Who are Cathay's main rivals? Zeach, ogres, other Cathayans. In Immortal Empires, you'll also have the Dark Elves. Alright? They're raided by the Dark Elves all the time. Yeah. Why, on God's green earth, would you decide to make a big flying paper ball of fire? They just, never mind that they're pretty much ineffective and just kind of useless overall in the game. I'm talking purely on the design here. They're just stupid. I would have loved to see them as things that you see on the campaign map, or as decorations in a city. Maybe even make maybe their towers look like this or something. That would be kind of cool. But I think as a unit, I'm not a fan of them. I think they just look
just too impractical for you.
It is essentially, yeah. They just don't really do why would you design that and take that into war with you? one shot. It's one stray bullet and you're going down. I just don't think it would end well, and especially you can have them as a lord mount, which I think makes even less sense. Because why would you put your general, the person you need to hold your army together, to give directions, to be the one in charge? Why would you put them in something so flimsy that you can't even really control because it's just a hot air balloon?
I'll defend that. Oh no!
Because what happens is it gets shot down, explodes, and they probably don't do too well with it.
Poor guy.
That's one dead magistrate. You know what I mean?
But I can understand at least when it's not like, obviously this isn't your melee lord or whatever. This guy's meant to be like a tactician, kind of.
Yeah.
I can understand giving him a vantage point over the battlefield.
No, I thought that at first as well.
I think that's fair.
But why would you make your vantage point out of paper mache? Do you know what I mean? And then put fire in it.
I don't know, they can't all be dragons.
I think there's probably a very good reason, though, that no commander in history has ever taken... I don't know, I'm saying this, it probably has happened. Has taken to the hot air balloon. Before the invention of radios, by the way. Because how was this guy going to give any command? He's 100 feet in the sky, he goes, oh, the cavalry are moving that way. How about, let me just relay this to the troop... Oh.
I think the troops just assume that he's shouting to march in order ranks anyway. It doesn't really matter.
Move in formation. He's shouting, retreat,
he's like, cavalry,
get out of there.
Cavalry, flank left.
Everyone brace.
Like, brace, march in ordered ranks.
Hold the line, guys. And he's like, move
aye,
forward.
aye,
Go forward, take the point. And they're just like, what? I just think it's not a great design. I think it's impractical. Plus, I mean, there's the sky junk, which I think looks kind of cool. It has the same sort of flaws, but at least has a huge cannon built into the front of it with like a dragon's mount that spits out rockets. Because that to me also feels like it has a purpose. Flying artillery makes sense, kind of. It makes sense to like have your artillery above your troops. There's no risk of hurting your own guys. You can launch better angles. It makes sense to take that risk. The Sky Lantern is just a big floating ball of fire that made of paper that can be shot down very easily. Doesn't look like it really does anything on the battlefield. You've got what, four snipers in there. That's all well and good, but when you have 2,000 enemies approaching you, and they can fire one volley every 10 seconds, they're not very helpful. So yeah, that rounds off my list. That's those are the units that I think are the coolest and the least cool.
That one is definitely the most controversial to me.
I think it will be controversial. I think I can see there's a lot of appeal to it, and like I say, I think the Sky Junk it was saved because it is at least practical. At least I can see why you would take that risk. The Sky Lantern to me, no. What do you think? What do you think? Would you change any of those? Would you switch them around? Would you put anything else? Let us know in the comments. What about you, Hendrik?
Yeah, I'd be interested to know what people think about the Sky Lantern.
Yeah.
I've never, in all my time knowing you, I didn't know you held such vitriol for it.
I really want to clarify here as well. I think most units in this game are quite cool. I quite like a lot of the designs, but they're just some of them I just can't excuse. It's like the War Wagon in Warhammer 2. There's nothing wrong with the model, but why the hell would you ever do that? You know what I mean? Like, why would you make that?
Yeah, that's fair. Good list, Nat.
Thanks, man.
I've enjoyed this.
I'll
do it again sometime.
I don't know how to end this, so I guess see you later. Bye.